Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Gaurav Sharma and with me is Renuka, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls for accelerated efforts towards climate-resilient agriculture in light of the growing challenge of climate change. WTO establishes panel to investigate China's anti-dumping duties on stainless steel products originating from Japan. Bangladesh launches a special COVID vaccination drive to mark Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's birthday. India's Foreign Secretary Harsh Vardhan Shringla urges the international community to work towards a nuclear weapon-free world at the UN Security Council. India and the USA signed 2 MOUs for cooperation in health and biomedical sciences at the 4th Indo-US Health Dialogue 2021. First ever Himalayan Film Festival concludes after screening over 50 films from 20 Himalayan states of the country in Leh. And in the IPL, Kolkata Knight Riders beat Delhi Capitals by 3 wickets at Sharjah. As the nationwide free COVID-19 vaccination campaign at government facilities for those above 18 years is underway, we advise our young listeners to get vaccinated and help others get vaccinated. We also advise our listeners not to lower their guard as COVID-19 remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact the national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now, the news in detail. India's Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, said that India's agriculture should evolve rapidly to meet the growing threat of climate change. Mr. Modi made the appeal in a ceremony dedicating 35 crop varieties with special traits to the nation through video conferencing on Tuesday. He said that due to climate change, new types of pests, new diseases and epidemics are emerging, posing a big threat to the health of humans, livestock and crops. He said intensive, continued research on these aspects is necessary. The Prime Minister said efforts are being made to take the farmer out of the crop-based income system and encourage them for value addition and other farming options.
भिन्न भिन्न परिस्थितियों की वजह से किसान एक ही फसल उगाने लग गया। इस स्थिति को भी हमें मिलकर बदलना ही होगा। आज जब क्लाइमेट चेंज की चुनौती बढ़ रही है, तो हमें अपने कार्यों की गति को भी बढ़ाना होगा। बीते वर्षों में इसी भावना को हमने किसानों की आय में बढ़ोतरी करने के लिए भी प्रोत्साहित किया है।
Mr. Modi stressed the need to further develop millets and other grains with solutions from science and research. He said that the purpose is that they can be grown in different parts of the country according to the local needs. He asked people to be prepared to use the opportunities provided by the UN, declaring the coming year as the year of the millet. Earlier this year, the United Nations declared 2023 as the International Year of Millets in recognition of the significant role that millets can play in furthering climate-resilient agriculture. In a separate event, Vice President Mr. M. Venkaiah Naidu on Tuesday called for tapping and the potential of revolutionary technologies like artificial intelligence, AI, to deliver benefits to the people and enhance the quality of life. In this regard, Sri Naidu urged educational institutions, researchers and developers to come out with practical AI solutions in the fields of agriculture, health and education. Mr. Naidu was addressing a gathering at IIT Jodhpur after laying the foundation of a fabrication laboratory for artificial intelligence of things, AIoT. In Germany, the process towards the formation of a coalition government has started as the center-left Social Democrats SPD, led by Olaf Scholz, claimed a narrow victory over incumbent Chancellor Angela Merkel's Christian Democratic Union on Monday. According to the preliminary official results, the SPD has 206 seats in the German parliament. Bundestag, outgoing Chancellor Angela Merkel's CDU, has 196 seats according to various reports. The elections will decide the successor to Ms. Merkel after 16 years at the helm of the nation. The Greens and the Free Democratic Party, FDP, are expected to be a part of the coalition government. SPD leader Olaf Scholz said he had a clear mandate to form a government, while his conservative rival Armin Laschet remains determined to fight on. The two parties have governed together for years. Preliminary results give SPD a narrow election win over the Conservatives, who suffered their worst ever performance. The Greens and pro-business Free Democratic Party attracted the most support from first-time voters in an election dominated by climate change and differing proposals on how to tackle it.
The dispute settlement body DSP of the World Trade Organization WTO established a panel on Japan's request regarding China's measure imposing anti-dumping duties on stainless steel products from Japan. According to a statement from Japan's Foreign Ministry, China started imposing anti-dumping duties in July 2019 on stainless steel products imported from Japan, the Republic of Korea, Indonesia and the EU. China claimed that its domestic industry was being injured by the dumped imports of such products. Japan considers the measure to be inconsistent with the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade 1994 GATT and the WTO anti-dumping agreement due to flaws in the Chinese authorities' determination and its investigation procedures. As the dispute was not settled through the consultations, Japan subsequently requested the establishment of a panel under the WTO agreement. Meanwhile, China is witnessing an unprecedented power supply crisis that has turned critical in recent days, threatening entire power grids as industrial production grinds to halt and traffic lights fail amid power rationing. With more than half of the country enduring power cuts, making it one of the most extreme energy rationing in the nation's history, especially as it hit regular households. Our Beijing correspondent reports that it has triggered widespread alarm among much of the population and plunging the nation's industrial sector into chaos. Poor communication and an unclear timeline for power rationing has worsened the confusion, with many angry and confused residents taking their complaints to social media, saying the electricity cuts have come during peak hours without sufficient warning. The power cuts are mainly due to insufficient coal supply. As temperatures drop in China's northeast, residents have started to turn up the heating, driving up electricity usage. Power cuts are common in China and are usually restricted to industrial users, but their frequency has risen since the second half of the last year and has now been extended to households. Many companies, including small firms, have had to shift production overnight, reduce output or cease operations entirely. Experts also expect the wide-reaching impacts from the dramatic cuts in energy consumption to last until the end of the year. They warn that further disruptions risk aggravating inflation while pummeling production. The latest setback comes after some analysts raised alarms over China's economic outlook in recent weeks.
The Indian Army on Tuesday said that more than a week-long operation against the infiltrators ended along the line of control in Uri sector of North Kashmir's Baramulla district, with the killing of a terrorist and capturing another alive. Speaking to the media in Uri this afternoon, Major General Virendra Vats, General Officer Commanding of 19th Infantry Division of the Army, said the military operation started on the night of the 18th of September when a search party observed the movement of infiltrators on LOC. He said the infiltrators were 6 in number. 4 among them took advantage of darkness and returned to Pakistan after a gunfight, while 2 were holed up elsewhere. He said during the gun battle, 1 infiltrator was killed, while another was captured alive. Major General said the terrorist captured by the army has revealed that he is affiliated with Lashkar-e-Taiba. Lieutenant General said a large haul of arms and ammunition was recovered from the area. More than 87 crore 7 lakh COVID-19 vaccine doses have been administered in the country so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. The Health Ministry said over 1 crore 2 lakh 22,000 doses were administered on Monday. The daily new cases reported in India were less than 20,000 after 201 days. During the last 24 hours, over 18,000 new cases were recorded in the country. The ministry said the recovery rate is currently at 97.81%, the highest since March last year. Over 26,000 people have recovered in the last 24 hours, and the total recoveries touched 3 crore 29 lakh 58,002.
India's Home Ministry has asked states and union territories to enforce adherence to COVID-appropriate behavior during the upcoming festive season. In a letter to states and union territories, Home Secretary Ajay Bhalla said there is a possibility that COVID-appropriate behavior will not be adhered to strictly with a decline in cases during the festive season. He asked them to maintain utmost vigil in respect of mass gatherings to avoid surges in cases. The letter stated that large-scale gatherings and fairs, festivals and religious events and functions may lead to a fresh surge in COVID cases in the country. States and union territories have been asked to closely monitor case positivity, hospital and ICU occupancy of every district on a regular basis. States having high positivity in their districts should take proactive containment measures to effectively arrest the spike in cases and contain the spread of transmission. The Tribal Cooperative Marketing Development Federation of India, TriFed, has partnered with the UNICEF and WHO to promote health with livelihood activities through a focused vaccination campaign in tribal districts in India. The COVID Tika Sangh Surakshit Van, Dhan Aur Udayam campaign was virtually launched by Mr. Arjun Munda, Minister for Tribal Affairs, Government of India, on 15th of July 2021 to accelerate the pace of COVID vaccination among tribal communities of India. The campaign targets to leverage the 45,000 One Dhan self-help groups. It employs awareness generation in local languages to promote vaccine uptake and COVID-appropriate behavior. In a statement, India's Tribal Ministry said that the campaign focuses on reassurance, pride and self-efficacy.
And now the coronavirus updates from around the world. The government of Bangladesh launched a nationwide COVID vaccination campaign on Tuesday to mark the birthday of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The campaign aims to vaccinate 75 lakh people. The government has deputed 80,000 health workers, including 48,000 volunteers, for the vaccination campaign in the country. The day-long vaccination campaign may be extended if the target is not achieved in a day due to unforeseen reasons. Bangladesh has provided the first dose of vaccine to more than 2.48 crore people, while 1.64 crore people have received both the doses of the vaccine till Monday, 27th of September. Meanwhile, the COVID situation in Bangladesh remained under control, with the sample positivity rate recorded below 5% on Monday. The country saw 25 deaths and 1,212 new cases of COVID-19 on Monday. U.S. President Joe Biden received a booster shot of Pfizer-BioNTech's COVID vaccine in a widely publicized event on Monday. Receiving the dose, Mr. Biden said that the Food and Drug Administration and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have approved the Pfizer vaccine as safe and effective. Urging Americans to get vaccinated, Mr. Biden said that boosters are important, but the most important thing is to get more people vaccinated. Japan's Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga said on Tuesday that it will end its state of emergency and quasi-state of emergency by the end of the week as COVID-19 infections fall nationwide. Speaking to the media, Mr. Suga said that the number of new coronavirus cases in patients with severe symptoms have dramatically declined. In the UK, some of the country's top rugby players have encouraged young people to get their COVID-19 vaccine as they discuss their personal experiences of the pandemic. Earlier this month, the booster program was also rolled out in the UK. Those eligible were invited to book their jab as soon as possible in order to keep the virus under control for the long term and protect the most vulnerable through the winter months. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla, while speaking at the United Nations Security Council UNSC meeting on Monday, said that Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty CTBT does not address a number of core concerns raised by India. Shringla cited this as a major reason behind India's non-participation in the treaty. During the address, Shringla also said India is committed to the goal of a nuclear weapon-free world and urged the international community for the elimination of nuclear weapons from the world. During the address, Foreign Secretary also added that India maintains a voluntary unilateral moratorium on nuclear explosive testing. Meanwhile, Foreign Secretary also urged that the international community should continue to work towards realizing the collective aspiration for a nuclear weapon-free world. In today's hotspot section, We bring you Mr. Shringla's address at the United Nations Security Council meeting on non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, CTBT.
Mr. President, India has played a leading role in global efforts towards nuclear disarmament. India was the first country to call for a ban on nuclear testing in 1954 and a non-discriminatory treaty on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons, as distinct from non-dissemination in 1965. India is committed to the goal of a nuclear weapons-free world and the complete elimination of nuclear weapons, consistent with the highest priority accorded to nuclear disarmament by the final document of the first special session of the UN General Assembly on disarmament. We believe that this goal can be achieved through a step-by-step process underwritten by a universal commitment and an agreed global and non-discriminatory multilateral framework as outlined in India's working paper on nuclear disarmament submitted to the United Nations General Assembly in 2006. Mr. President, as to the theme of today's discussion, India had participated in the negotiations of the draft CTBT in the Conference on Disarmament. But India could not join the treaty as the treaty did not address a number of core concerns raised by India. India maintains a voluntary, unilateral moratorium on nuclear explosive testing. Mr. President, India would continue to work in the framework of the disarmament triad, consisting of the Conference on Disarmament, the UN Disarmament Commission, and the First Committee of the UN General Assembly to strengthen nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation architecture. As the world's sole multilateral disarmament negotiating forum, the Conference on Disarmament is well placed to advance the global disarmament agenda and negotiate legally binding instruments on items on its core agenda. Without prejudice to the priority we attach to nuclear disarmament, India has expressed its readiness to support the commencement of negotiations on a fissile material cut-off treaty in the Conference on Disarmament on the basis of the mandate contained in CD/1299. In this context, India has also participated in the work of the group of governmental experts on FMCT and the high-level preparatory group on FMCT. Furthermore, India has contributed to the GGE on nuclear disarmament verification through its membership of the earlier and the current group of governmental experts, which will meet later this year in Geneva. Mr. President, India has actively supported and contributed to the strengthening of the global nuclear security architecture. India participates in the Nuclear Security Summit process and has regularly participated in the International Conference on Nuclear Security organized by the IAEA. India is also a member of the Nuclear Security Contact Group. India is a key partner in the global non-proliferation efforts. One of the important steps undertaken by us in this context is the piloting of an annual UN General Assembly resolution on measures to prevent terrorists from acquiring weapons of mass destruction since 2002, which is adopted by consensus. The Security Council's Resolution 1540 is an important instrument of global non-proliferation efforts. There is a need for the international community to pay closer attention to the illicit proliferation of networks of nuclear weapons, their delivery systems, components, and relevant technologies. With the objective of strengthening the non-proliferation architecture, India has also joined various export control regimes, namely the Australia Group, Wassenaar Arrangement, Missile Technology Control Regime, and has harmonized its controls with the Nuclear Suppliers Group lists. We hope that the international community will continue to work towards realizing our collective aspiration for a nuclear weapons-free world. In closing, I would like to recognize the efforts of the UN Secretariat and the UN Office of Disarmament Affairs towards the goal of a nuclear weapons-free world. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank His Excellency Mr. Shringla for his statement.
Elsewhere, North Korea has reportedly fired a short-range missile towards the sea off its east coast in the early hours of Tuesday. Earlier this month, Pyongyang has also test-fired both ballistic and cruise missiles. The test occurred as North Korea's ambassador said at the UN that no one could deny Pyongyang's right to self-defense and to test weapons. South Korean President Moon Jae-in has ordered Seoul's National Security Council to analyze any intentions behind Pyongyang's latest missile launch and recent statements from Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong. North Korea had earlier expressed willingness to engage in talks with the South. The U.S. military said in a statement that it was aware of the missile launch but that it posed no immediate threat to U.S. personnel or its allies.
Nepal appreciated India's role in helping the nation combat the COVID situation in the country. Speaking at the 76th session of the UN General Assembly debate on Monday, Nepal's Minister for Foreign Affairs, Narayan Khadka, spoke about the role of international cooperation in fighting the pandemic.
Despite constraints and the challenges to access COVID-19 vaccines, we have been able to vaccinate close to 20% of our population. We remain grateful to our immediate neighbors India and China for their support in fighting the COVID crisis. We also sincerely thank friendly countries like United States, Britain, Japan and others for providing vaccines, critical medical equipment and medicines in our fight against the pandemic.
Mr. Khadka also referred to the growing prominence of India and China in the global economy.
The world's economic center of gravity is shifting decisively towards Asia, centered on the economic growth of China and India. At the same time, the world is becoming more complicated and polarized, with transnational challenges ranging from terrorism to climate change, to food security, to mass migration, to political radicalism and extremism. Under the cumulative impact of all these factors, we are experiencing with new ways of life in the midst of confusion and uncertainty. We see conflicts in different parts of the world. These conflicts are more within nations than between nations. This has given rise to identity politics. Nations find themselves increasingly divided along lines of race, ethnicity, gender, and religion. We must find a common ground and practice tolerance and harmony to confront these unimaginable problems.
Drawing the attention to Afghanistan, the minister called for the international community to work towards bringing lasting peace and stability in the conflict-ridden country.
Recent developments in Afghanistan are common concerns to all of us. People of Afghanistan deserve better. We call for an unhindered humanitarian access and a full resumption of public services, including health and education, for all sections of Afghan society. We urge all parties involved to ensure peace, security and stability so that the Afghan people can live in dignity and enjoy their fundamental rights and freedom. We also urge Afghanistan to engage with the international community on the basis of principles of UN Charter and norms of international law.
A virtual ceremony to hand over the final phase of the project for supply and installation of 1,500 hand pumps for augmentation of rural water supply in Cambodia was held on Tuesday. The ceremony was presided over by the Minister of State of External Affairs, Dr. Rajkumar Ranjan Singh, and the Minister of Rural Development of Cambodia, Dr. Ok Rabun. In a statement, India's External Affairs Ministry said that the implementation of the project was financed by the Government of India through a 100% grant. The project has led to an increase in the population coverage with safe drinking water from 27% to 40% in rural Cambodia. The statement added that the project is a reflection of the strong bilateral development cooperation between India and Cambodia.
India's Minister for Health and Family Welfare, Mr. Mansukh Mandavia, addressed the closing session of the 4th Indo-US Health Dialogue being hosted by India on Tuesday. The two-day dialogue was leveraged as a platform to deliberate upon multiple ongoing collaborations in the health sector between the two countries. 2 MOUs were also signed at the concluding session. One MOU was signed concerning cooperation in the field of health and biomedical sciences. The other MOU was signed for cooperation with International Center for Excellence in Research ICER. Speaking on the occasion, Mr. Mandavia said that India and US are global partners and need to work collaboratively in reforming the global health architecture whose fault lines have become amply visible during the current pandemic. He added that constructive and positive cooperation amongst both countries can lead to peace, harmony and growth not only for both sides but the world at large.
And now a report from the business world.
The Sensex plunged 410 points or 0.68% to finish at 59,668. The NSE Nifty lost 107 points or 0.6%, down at 17,749. Among global markets, Asian shares mainly fell. However, China's Shanghai Composite added 0.5% and Hong Kong's Hang Seng rose 1.2%. South Korea's Kospi declined 1.1%, Singapore's Straits Times fell 0.7%, and Japan's Nikkei 225 index slipped 0.2%. European markets were down in intraday trade. Oil prices continued to rise amid bullish demand outlook and near-term constrained supply. Greater than expected drawdowns in crude inventories over the past 2 weeks have also supported the crude prices. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading around $80 per barrel. Back home, gold prices declined 220 rupees at Multi-Commodity Exchange for October contracts, in sync with losses in the international markets. The precious metal was trading at 45,850 rupees per 10 gram. Silver also plunged 880 rupees to 59,755 rupees per kilogram for December contracts when reports last came in. In the forex market, the rupee weakened 21 paisa to deal at 74 rupees and 5 paisa against the US dollar. Anubha Rohatgi for World News, All India Radio.
Moving on to sports, in IPL, chasing a victory target of 136, Mumbai Indians won 95 for 4 in 15.4 overs against Punjab Kings at Zayed Cricket Stadium, Abu Dhabi, when reports last came in. Batting first, Punjab posted a score of 135 runs for the loss of 6 wickets in the stipulated 20 overs with help of Aidan Markham's 42 of 29 balls. For Mumbai, Kieron Pollard and Jasprit Bumrah took 2 wickets each. Earlier, Mumbai won the toss and elected to bowl first. In another match of the day, Kolkata Knight Riders defeated Delhi Capitals by 3 wickets at Sharjah. Delhi put a target of 128 runs for Kolkata, and in response, Kolkata Knight Riders scored 130 runs for 7 wickets in 18.2 overs. The 5-day Himalayan Festival concluded in Leh after screening over 50 films from 12 Himalayan states of the country. On the occasion, Ladakh LG R.K. Mathur appealed to Ladakh filmmakers to make a series on Kesa, the mythical king of the region. He said with the help of the centre, the Union Territory Administration is providing FTII certification to the youth to help them with technology updates.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Washington Post writes, FDA says it needs more data to rule on the safety of sunscreen ingredients. The Wall Street Journal writes that U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the government could exhaust cash reserves by October 18th unless the debt limit is raised or suspended. Financial Times reports that panic buying of fuel shows early signs of easing. The Globe and Mail writes that WHO panel finds 80 alleged abuse cases tied to the organization's Congo work. And South China Morning Post reports that China's Evergrande Group is $309.2 billion in debt. And now a quick look at the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls for accelerated efforts towards climate-resilient agriculture in light of the growing challenge of climate change. WTO establishes panel to investigate China's anti-dumping duties on stainless steel products originating from Japan. Bangladesh launches a special COVID vaccination drive to mark Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's birthday. India's Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla urges the international community to work towards a nuclear weapon-free world at the United Nations Security Council. India and the USA signed 2 MOUs for cooperation in health and biomedical sciences at the 4th Indo-US Health Dialogue 2021. 5-day Himalayan Film Festival concludes after screening over 50 films from 12 Himalayan states of the country in Leh. And in the IPL, Kolkata Knight Riders beat Delhi Capitals by 3 wickets at Sharjah. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Mexico on their 200th Independence Day.
Maniva And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.